one of the game's greatest ever goal kickers in the history of Australian rules football, an Australian Football Hall of Fame legend. There's only 31 of those. He's one of the legends of Australian football's Hall of Fame. He's a giant of the game, a true living legend. Please make him welcome Peter Hudson, everybody. Thanks for coming on, mate. You know this is special. We've been looking forward to having you on the show for quite some time.
I've been trying to get you on for years now. I think I've been stalking you over many years, but we finally got you, and we can't tell you how thrilled we are to have you here tonight.
It's a pleasure to be here, mate.
And thanks for joining us, Peter. Well done. Oh, no, we've got so many questions.
Look, it's a big week for the footy club, and we'll talk to you about all the stuff that's going on with the centenary on the way through and the move out to Dingley, which I know you've been part of. As we roll the highlights of this unbelievable football up, I just got to read some stuff out, Pete, because there's a lot of people who weren't watching footy in black and white. 129 games, 727 goals for Hawthorn. 75 games, 344 goals for New Norfolk. 75 games, 518 goals for Glen Orkley in a couple of stints. The only player in the history to kick 100 goals a season 5 times. I mean, we could go on and on and on with the data.
What about one of those years being 150?
Yeah. Well, we'll get to that on the way through. I mean, you weren't the most athletic player, and there were blokes who could jump higher than you. What was your superpower?
Well, I think, Andy, to put it honestly, I think I could anticipate what was going on. I could concentrate. And I had no speed.
Yes.
I was a shocker on the training track. But I knew how to concentrate, and I think that was the key to it.
Got to be more than that, though, doesn't it, Pete?
Oh, well, the fact that I desperately wanted to kick goals.
Yep.
That helps.
Played an important part.
Can you ever remember dishing one off?
No. You put me on the spot there, Mick, but I know where you're coming from.
And you say you didn't have a secret weapon or superpower, but you had a big arse that you used very, very well. Is that fair?
And the funny part, Mick, I've still got it.
I mean that jokingly, but you used to put yourself in a good position and guys had to go round you or past you. It was generally a weapon of mass destruction.
And it was referred to as an ample posterior, which sounds better than the big arse, doesn't it?
You were we mentioned all those clubs you played for, but we all know you as a legend of the Hawthorn Football Club back in the Glenferry era. And in Hawthorn itself, you were larger than life. Can you tell me about a certain sign that famously was positioned out the front of a church in Hawthorn? Do you know the one I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do, Mick. I know it well. But the thing is that, I played a lot of footy. I played 20 years of footy. But there are a few things, including that church, that I seem to be remembered for. Another one was to do with a helicopter, but...
Yeah, we'll get to that.
But the thing with the church, I found out... everybody kept telling me there's a church in Hawthorn that's got a sign out the front where the minister of the day has written a sign and put it out the front, and it was, what would you do if Jesus Christ came to Hawthorn?
Yes.
And some wag wrote underneath it, move Peter Hudson to centre half forward. and I told the story one night. I told the story of Kooyong one night, and there was a guy in the audience, and he put his hand up and he said, Peter, he said, I don't expect you to believe this. He said, but it did happen. He said, my father was the minister at the church.
Oh, is that right?
Wow. And I said, well, will you tell your father, do me a favour, tell your father, I whined and dined on that story for about 40 years. He said, so is he.
I personally still would have kept you at full forward. It's like Jesus to centre half.
No doubt.
Well, apparently he was good in the wet.
But what upset me about it, he never came to training, and they put him in my spot.
Peter, can we go
on his feet, considering he played in sandals?
Can we go back to 1962, Peter, and let's talk about the Upper Derwent Footy Club down in Tasmania. Now, your old man is down the front there. He's captain coach. That's not you between his legs, that's you up the back there. But can you tell us how you started? How old were you there and how did you go in your first season in the A grade down there?
Well, I was 15, and I would play at school in the morning and at Huddo in the afternoon. And by the way, the whole association doesn't exist anymore, and Huddo was one of the teams in it. But the thing was that I was 15 and Dad played till he was nearly 40, so we played together, and it was fantastic. And we won the premiership.
Yeah.
But
How'd you go?
I went all right. Yeah.
Well, how many did you kick?
I don't know.
No, you do. No, you do know.
I believe he lost count.
You do know.
Andy, I'm 79. I'm 80 in February. I
Peter.
can't be expected to remember that.
Well, we'll
Hang
fill
on,
in the blanks.
can I just ask, what's it like playing with your dad? Like, you want to lead going, Dad, 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 Dad? What happens there?
It got tricky because in those days, like a team like Hudson didn't have club rooms. So the local hotel, the Rose Garland Hotel, was our club room.
Yes.
And we'd go back there, drinking age 21. Right. I'm 15. Bit of a stretch to get me out to 21 from 15.
So what'd you do?
Sat in the car park with Mum drinking raspberry cordial.
Just for those who are playing along at home, he was 15 that year. They won the premiership playing with his old man, and he kicked over 100 goals that year as a 15-year-old. So, I mean, everybody in the VFL knows about you by this stage. 1967, every club speaking here. The great John Coleman tried to get you to Essendon, who was one of the other great goal kickers in the history of the game. But you chose Hawthorn. Why?
Well, it's a really good question, but I can now look back on it and tell you definitively why I went to Hawthorn. Yeah. Because I went there, I went very close to going to Essendon, very close to going to South Melbourne. But my dad... he's gone now. He passed away about 3 years ago. He said to me, just hang on a while. But when I got to Hawthorn, and this is true, I liked what I saw. The young players looked good. The people supporting the club were good, really pillars of society. Yep. And, I just felt good about it. Yep. And as far as I'm concerned, to go there in 1967 with the Crimmins and the Mars and the Keddies and all these players, and we win a premiership in 1971, I reckon that was all right.
Yeah, you made a good call, of course. So you kick 11 goals. He kicks 11 goals in his first practice game, so it doesn't take long for you to settle into the competition and the VFL. Did you know that you were going to have such a great relationship with Glenferry Oval itself?
Yeah, I liked it. I liked it because it had no wings, so the ball was going to come down quickly if you were playing full forward. But did you know that John Kennedy used to push everyone up?
Yep.
And there'd be the fullback and myself. We were the only two in the whole of the forward line.
Well, they had to change the rules,
didn't they? They brought in the diamond, Fitzy. They brought that in. That didn't work. So then they brought in the square.
They changed the rules because of you, is what we're
that's
basically
true.
saying here. So I want to ask you more about Glenferry Oval because it was one of those great suburban grounds. I went to most of them. I never got to Glenferry. But what I do remember was there was a train line running adjacent to the ground, which used to come into play and affect the outcome on some occasions.
Picked up by Knights. His clearing kick is going toward the back pocket area as little Peter Crimmins comes in. Kids running on the ground everywhere and play still goes on. I think that was a train whistle they heard.
What, Jack?
The umpire stopping the game. It was a train whistle.
A train whistle and the kids are on the ground.
I thought it was a siren.
Get off, you little bastards.
Have a look at how slow the train is going. They used to stop and watch the game. And I believe they used to put an extra train on at three-quarter time for Carlton fans. Can you confirm that?
That's true, though, isn't it? The trains used to slow down when Hawthorn was going okay?
Absolutely. I never worried about the scoreboard. I just watched the trains because if it was a close game, there could be 5 trains. And if it was one-sided, the trains go straight through to Lilydale.
Peter, arguably the greatest coach of all time, and this is such an iconic shot for anyone out there, and young men, if you see this as well. That's John Kennedy Senior and yourself as a young man. Obviously, motivational coach, unbelievable, but he could give a good spray, John. Did you ever cop any of those, Peter, over the years?
No, the closest I got to a spray... nobody ever said anything out of our place, so for fear of being sprayed.
Yes.
The one that happened to me that I remember, and I didn't know about it at the time, but Ken Peace wrote a book and he had all short stories in it. One of them was that Norm Lloyd was a runner. John hated me playing behind, which I loved to do, because I thought there was nothing better than running into an open goal if the ball went over the back.
Yeah, exactly.
And I hated chasing because wherever you chased to, you had to get back. You know, I didn't go much on that, but anyway, one day he said to Norm Lloyd, the runner, go out and tell Hudson if he doesn't play in front, if he doesn't chase, he's off.
Right.
Norm comes running out towards me, and Jack McLeod, the chairman of selectors, said, John, he's kicked 6. Come back, Norm. Go and tell him to keep doing what he's doing.
Hey, Peter, we have a great sponsor on the show, BWS, of course, and they love their stats, and we love our stats here, of course, and there's so many stats to choose from when it comes. Well, I'm going to pick this one. Only 2 players in AFL, VFL history now, look at this, have averaged more than 5 goals per game right throughout their career. Fitzy, 5 goals now is a bag. If a guy kicks 5 now, it's a bag. 2 players in the history of the game average 5 goals a game. Let's see who they are. One of them is Peter Hudson, the greatest goals per game average in the history of footy. And the other one is John Coleman, one of the all-time greats. I mean, that is, when you see yourself shading somebody like Coleman, who I imagine you saw play.
It's the Coleman medal. Why isn't it the Hudson medal?
Yeah, look, one of my biggest regrets in life and in football was never being able to see John Coleman play.
Oh, you never did?
Never saw him
Did
play.
he try to get you to Essendon? Is that correct?
He came down to New Norfolk in Tasmania, where I was living, and tried to get me to go to Essendon.
I would have thought that would have got you over the line. Yeah, for sure.
It was very close.
Can I mention a couple of other stats on that basis? So 5 per goal. Can you remember going a quarter without kicking a goal?
I can remember going a game without kicking a goal.
How many times did you go in your career? Did you go without kicking a goal? I'll tell you, 3.
Yep.
3.
And Mick, I wish you hadn't brought that up. Okay? It's not one of my proudest moments.
Well, yeah, but it should be. It's only 3 games out of everything. OK, most goals you kicked in a game?
With Hawthorn?
No, all round, I'll tell you.
18.
18.
18 in a game.
18.
In Hobart. In Hobart.
18 goals. Who was your hardest opponent?
Bob Murray.
Bob Murray?
Yeah.
What did he keep you to, 12?
He was one of the ones that kept you goalless, wasn't he, Bob?
Bob, no.
No, he didn't.
Barry Richardson.
Beg your pardon.
Yeah, and I was talking to Barry's wife just a couple of weeks ago, and she is sick of him telling that story. Nearly as much as I'm sick of him telling that story.
I bet you are.
I've got one for you. Now, your kicking technique, we've seen, but by today's standards, is hard to unscramble. It was different. How did a friend of yours describe your kicking technique?
Very simply, as like a dog trying to make love to a cricket ball.
Well, let's have a look at that in action.
Not a dog. We're not going to look at a dog.
So, what was your... I mean, the ball flight too, Huddo, is... Look at that. Right now, we'd say that was an absolute mung, and yet your accuracy levels were amazing. You kicked the flat punt perfectly. What was your theory? Why did you have that hunch at the start and the ball so close to your boot? What was the rationale behind that?
Well, to get down low and have the ball close to my foot.
Have you got the ball with you? Have you got a book? Show us what you're up to, because this is...
I had it down low, and Tony Lockett, he went lower and lower and lower.
Yes.
But the theory behind it was that the lower I got, I felt the less risk there was with the wind blowing the ball off course by the time it hit your foot. That was that. But the flat punt came from, which I kicked for the whole of my football career, the sweet spot.
Yeah.
And I know Mick's a champion golfer.
Yeah, of course
But the sweet spot on the driver, the bigger the sweet spot, the better.
Yes.
And that's a lot bigger sweet spot there than on the end.
Yeah. So can I ask you then, the modern game, and we still see so many professional footballers just miss 20 metres out in front of goal by doing the drop punt. Do you reckon that there's more risk with the drop punt lining up for goal, Peter?
Yeah. If you're a little bit offset with the drop punt, it's gone.
It's gone.
Yep.
But a flat punt, I can remember seeing goal umpires, because you're kicking a flat punt, it can wobble all over the place,
Yep.
the wind can blow it around. I've seen that many umpires, I'm sure, that went that way, that way, that way. And in the finish, they went, have a goal. And Andy, one day at Moorabbin, I kicked one, it went through the goals, umpires like that, blew out through the points, St Kilda bloke marked it, and he's taken off up the ground. Poor old goal umpires.
I didn't know what he was doing. So you kicked so many goals, Huddo, throughout your magnificent career. 1971 grand final, the season you had in 71 was phenomenal, and it becomes one of the most dramatic grand finals ever. Probably the most dramatic as any grand final's ever been. Can you remember your role in the lead up to that game, and what was, tell people what was on your doorstep that afternoon?
Are you talking about Bob Pratt?
Yeah.
Bob Pratt didn't want me to break his record.
No,
150.
150.
That was pretty obvious to me.
What did you start the game at? What were you?
147.
Yep.
And I kicked two very early on.
Yep.
And then I was a participant in an accident, a bad accident.
We'll talk to that in a moment.
I can't remember anything after that.
Well, you did kick another one, and then it gets to the last quarter, and the moment's arrived. You've equalled Bob Pratt, and history awaits Peter Hudson, and this is how it played out.
There's Marr, traps the ball, swings it in towards the goal square. It's going over the top, and it's Hudson! Hudson, 15 yards out.
Will he get it?
On a slight angle,
You want to
should
see
be able to kick the goal.
Bobby, the police moving into position all round the boundary here. Hudson has got 3. He's equal Bob Pratt's record of 150. Will he put this one through? How he must feel. Oh, he's no more than 8 yards out. He should kick it. Up he comes. He kicks.
Do you have any memory of what you think? You're kicking into Barry Lawrence, you get smothered from 15. That's a goal you kick 99 times out. Oh, no, 100 times out of 100 you kick that goal. But we'll get to the extenuating circumstances in a moment. Can you have any recollection of how you were thinking at that moment?
No.
But we're going to get to that in a second, because you also had other chances. So that's
right.
This is the start of the last quarter. This is to break the record.
So Bob Keddy takes the mark.
takes the mark. Handballs to you should be
It's all
play
over.
on.
It's all over.
This is it.
Bang.
That's the record.
Pete, you start celebrating there. I've finally got the record. Your ears hanging off your head there, and then all of a sudden the umpire, the maggot, brings it back.
What is wrong with umpires?
There's another moment, Fitz.
This is another one. Running into an open goal, Peter. Just a bit of advice. Drop punt would have been good there. But yeah, that one, you had 3 opportunities, Peter, to break the record.
I did, Fitz. Thank you for bringing it up. That's a bit of footage that I steer clear of.
I bet you do.
But I don't think I can never remember kicking into the man on the mark ever, apart from that. So
I don't think you can remember a lot from that game after a certain incident early on in the piece.
But I do think it was an accident.
Oh, an accident, do you?
Let's have
Okay,
a
so
look.
here you are. Here comes Cowboy Neil. Bang, there's the accident. You reckon that's an accident?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, of course it is.
Surely everybody could see that's an accident.
But have a look at you here, Peter.
But can I just say, I'm not sure the concussion protocols were that strong. This looks like weekend Bernie's.
Look at it. You can hardly stand up.
So your ear is nearly amputated at this stage. You have no memory of it. This is early on in the game.
Yep.
First quarter. Yeah.
So, man.
No question, just pointing it out.
Is it a tough thing for you to be asked to recall?
Well,
I mean, it's 150.
it's not really tough, Andy, at all, because I can't remember anyway. I mean, I can't recall it because I can't remember it.
There's some argument as to whether it was premeditated or not. I think it may have been, if you listen to the words pre-match of Cowboy Neil himself.
Voice from the back of the room said you can't kick goals if you're unconscious, and that was me.
Have you spoken to Cowboy Neil since?
Yeah, we became pretty
Not
good
in
friends.
his bad here.
No, but I look at it this way, Fitzy, if he's a good bloke, he was a terrific bloke, Cowboy, and if I was going to get knocked out like that, I'd rather it be someone like Cowboy than someone who's a sniper type.
Of course, yeah. Well, you end up you won the premiership. You had a super year. You kick 150 goals. You're part of history as a result of that season. So even though you didn't,
Hard to feel sorry for a bloke who's kicked 150 goals in a season.
Yeah.
It's
Even though you didn't get
magnificent.
to break Bob's record, you've got a very special place in the history of the game, and there's more of your spectacular career to talk to you about. On the other side is Peter Hudson, our special guest.
He read the game like no one else. He knew just where to be. The straightest shooter in the land, on the brink of history. Hudson number 26, 150 through the sticks. Just one more go to beat them all. Come on, Huddo, get that goal. Come on, Huddo, get that goal.
You can be a legend, but when Mike Brady's written a song about you, and the way he rhymed number 26 with through the sticks,
Very good.
will live on in immortality.
Have
Big
you got-
song. I believe you often brought it out in the bedroom occasionally. Just get the ball rolling.
Have you got that
answer. I've got no
answer. Peter Hudson, our special guest. We're here for Han. How good, of course. It's magnificent to have you with us. And have you got a copy of that album at home? Have you got that vinyl?
I'll have to talk to Steph and find out where she's put it.
Have you got a copy of your documentary? You were the first professional footballer to get his own documentary on VHS tape. And it seemed like everyone wanted to be a part of the story, Peter, like these two blokes.
Two of the men who helped shape Peter's early career with Huddo were Digger Bricknell, the team trainer, and Lionel Triffitt, the vice-captain. Digger claims to be the first man to give the future star a pre-match rub-down.
Do you remember the rub-down from Digger?
He popped the record on.
Do you remember the rub-down?
Do I what? Digger was a ripper. Him and Lionel Triffitt, the guy that was there with him, they were the heart and soul of Huddo. Digger had the working man's hand. Really
callous hand.
And he gave me a rub down when I was 15, and I don't know. I'll put it this way: I've never had a rub down since then.
A bit of panel beating on offer there.
But the other one you didn't have on there, who I loved, was a fella called Brownie Glover. And when we played at Huddo, a typical country football ground, all the cars would be down one side of the ground.
Yes.
And when you kick a goal, beep, 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 and all that. And on the other side of the ground, nothing. But Brownie used to bring his cow in at the start of the last quarter, line it up, milk it so he could on the angle he could watch. He could watch the game. That's true. That is true.
That is awesome. Brownie Glover. Someone's going to make a movie about Brownie Glover. You should act. You should be Brownie
Trust
Glover.
me, Brownie Glover is going to be behind that bar next week, answering hard questions. Can I just say, Peter, you mentioned before the break, you mentioned a goal you kicked at Moorabbin where the ball went through the goals, came out through the points and was raced off down the track. Do you remember what year it was?
1971 it was.
71. Yeah. How's this? In the break, I kid you not, our producers, this is how good they are, have gone out and found the bit of footage. Here is the goal in question. Through the goals and back through the points and off it goes. Look. So there's a high confusion now.
That's Gary Colling who's taken the mark, I reckon. There's Crimo.
It's gone through and it's come back
out.
out.
So it's a goal. Crimo said it was a goal. And you're not going to doubt Peter, are you? No chance you're going to doubt him.
So there it is. What a magical moment.
Wow. So many signpost moments in your career. 72, 73, 74 are just ridiculous years for you. I mean, it's bizarre what your career went through. It's 1972 round 1 against Melbourne. You've kicked 8 before half-time. You're probably going to break Fred Fanning's record the way you're going. And then this happened, Peter. where you do your knee, Ray Biffin's standing. Do you remember what you were thinking?
Have a look at this. So look at the guy on the end. I reckon he's come off the train to help. He looks like he's been involved in a wood chop.
One of the O'Toole brothers.
I think it's one of the O'Toole brothers.
Do you remember thinking the worst at that particular moment?
No, I knew I was in a bit of trouble,
Yep.
and it was the most painful thing I've ever experienced in my life. But I didn't know what was to come. That year, like I've only got really one regret. I'd love to have played that game. I would have been happy to have done both knees if I could have seen that game out because we were on such a roll, and it felt good.
Yeah, I bet it did.
So you had surgery and then you had a bit of a break from the game. Did they have recos back then, or what was it, Peter? Do you remember?
I wasn't operated on until the end of that season.
Yep.
Because, like, so many players that I played with are new, and they did their knees and never played again.
That was it. No. Yeah.
And it was Dr. John Grant, who fantastic man. He started doing the knees.
Right.
He did Peter Stewart's at North Melbourne, and then he went on and did lots and lots of knees. And I was able to play again, but I really lost 3 years.
Wow. Yeah. So it was the knee that got Coleman at 25. He never came back from that, of course. So 1973, you're back in Tassie, you're a Republican, and John Kennedy comes down to talk to you. Can you tell us about that and the fitness test that Kanga put you through?
Yeah. I did my knee first half 72.
Yep.
Then I didn't know what I was going to do, and I was offered the opportunity to go into a hotel down in Tasmania by a fellow by the name of Bob Arthur, who was a godfather to me. So I get into the pub. I've gone the whole year, nothing. Next year, because they've operated, I'm 12 months almost out of it.
Yep.
And so I'd done nothing that year. And John Kennedy rang me up at 72 gone, 73 gone, until about the third last game.
Yep.
He rang me and said, would you play?
What?
And I said, John, I haven't touched the football for nearly 2 years.
Yeah.
He said, I'll come down, see how you go.
Right.
So down he came. We went to a school ground. I ran from one goalpost to the other, blowing like a draft horse, it was. And old John went, ooh, a bit worse than I thought, he said. So he said, what we'll do, train for a couple of weeks and then we'll revisit it. And that's what I did. I trained every day, which was unusual for me to train every day. But,
and they got you back in 2 weeks, and then you made a fanfare-like return to the game. Explain this photo to me. Here you are getting in a chopper that's going to Waverley, where you land. Why are you in a chopper? Why wouldn't you have just come up from Tassie the day before?
Well, they said we'll bring you up on Friday and play Saturday, and then we'll fly you back to be in your hotel, as I was every Saturday night. We'll fly you back. And I said, a problem? They said, why? I said, I can't come Friday. And they said, why? I said, I've got Norman Gunston appearing at my hotel. And it is going to be packed.
I fully understand. So you said, I can't travel till the day.
Yeah, and I'm going to come over on the Saturday morning. I'm in the hotel having a shave to go to the airport to catch the flight. And look, it's that long ago, I'm not sure whether it was TAA and Ansett, I think it was. So I'm due to fly with one of them, and I get a phone call while I'm shaving. The phone rings, and I got a call from the other airline saying, you're going to Melbourne today to play football. I said, yeah. They said, well, your plane's not going to get here. You're not going to be able to go on it. But they said, we've got one down here that was diverted. There was fog all down the, Melbourne, Hobart and all that. They said, we've got one here. If you can get down here in 40 minutes, we'll take you to Melbourne. So there's my wife, Steph, and myself on the flight with about 5 air hostesses, no one else, and away we go.
Wow. Then you get in the helicopter, you go to Waverley, you play Collingwood. You haven't played for 2 years. How'd you go that day?
I'm embarrassed to say, because the football gods were on my side that day.
Yeah.
But Fitzy, when we took off from Hobart...
How did you go, Peter?
But I'll tell you, we get in the plane, And we're going to Melbourne, and I said, what happens if we get to Melbourne and it's still fogged in? They said, Adelaide. So that was going to be the next
That was the
stop.
next step, was off to Adelaide.
So anyway, we get to Tullamarine, we jump in the helicopter, because I knew they were going to helicopter me out there to be sure of getting me there on time. And away we went, and we were up above Melbourne in the helicopter, having a wow of a time. And,
Yes.
yeah,
And how'd you go when you got there?
well, I went all right, yeah.
Yeah.
I kicked 8.
Yeah, there it is. It was worth it. But hang on. It was worth it. Hang on. You kicked 8. Is it true? Is it true that you did your knee again in like the first minute of the game?
Yeah.
So you've done your knee again. You buggered that again, but you still kicked 8.
Yeah.
Oh, that is unbelievable. That is fair income. Unbelievable.
You did your knee again. Wow. I hope there was a lot of leg room in the chopper on the way back. So 8 goals with a dicky knee.
Yeah, I did the cartilage.
It was such a big story. I mean, this was so... Were you aware how big the story was at the time?
Well, I had a rough idea.
Yeah, it was massive. No, it was gigantic.
Was it
huge.
true as well that when you got back to the pub, Norman Gunston decided to stay again and he did another night at the pub, or no? Was it... No.
No.
Okay.
So, Huddo, this... I mean, it's
Just taking one from Cowboy Neil, I reckon.
Hawthorn supporters are very excited about what's
What a
coming
week.
up on Sunday against the Tigers at the MCG. It's the centenary celebrations of your footy club. The special jumpers come out. You were part of the preparation for it. This must have been great fun to be part of.
Oh, it was good fun today. Yeah, it was fantastic fun. Yeah.
How much is this going to mean to the footy club and to all the blokes like you who have paved the way for these great Hawthorn teams?
Yeah, it was a very special day, and it was great to have so many legends of the club there with the Premiership Cups, and then to be mingling with the current players.
Yeah.
And I talked to Ned Reeves and said, the back of my neck's still sore from looking up at it.
Up at it, yeah.
God, he's big.
It's 100 years to think. For 100 years now, the Hawthorn Football Club have been giving the rest of us the shits.
Over
Such a long time.
900 players
Look
on
at
that on that Guernsey, which is pretty amazing. Just
The biggest week in the club's history, isn't it? It's fantastic.
Yeah,
It's
big.
must be great to be back.
What is your proudest moment at Hawthorn, Peter?
I used to get a bit confused about, like all of us, Fitzy, that played the game. There are a lot of things, a lot of memorable moments. And as the years have gone on, I've sort of reduced some of the things down to where I've got one really special thing. The number one thing that I'm proudest of as far as my football career and my time at Hawthorn is when my son Paul played in the 1991 Premiership.
Oh, that is magnificent.
After I
That
played
is so beautiful.
in 71.
He was a pretty handy player too. He was a very good servant of that football club.
Is he at home tonight with the grandkids watching you
No,
tonight?
we've chopped him in. he's on his way.
That's beautiful.
Cowboy Neil got to him out the back.
It's not the only significant thing taking place. Later in the year, I was talking to Ash Klein, the CEO, about this yesterday on radio, and you might be moving into Dingley, and the Hawthorn Foundation that you've been so much a part of and instrumental in the development of this new home at Dingley, you might be moving in at the end of the year. How proud are you of the work that the footy club's done to make this happen for the current players?
Well, look, I'm just so proud of what's happened so far and so excited about it, Andy, because it is going to be magnificent. And I do a lot with Rocket Eade. He's on the case, and Gary Ayres, talking to him today, we're all on the case. We just want to get as much as we can to support the whole project. And tonight, I unashamedly, I want to say to all the Hawthorn people, if you could, I hope you would.
Yep.
And I can say that hand on heart because I've made a commitment myself.
Yeah.
A 5-year commitment to support the project. And I just think it's a wonderful opportunity because my wife and I, when we looked at supporting it, we didn't hesitate because it's as simple as this. What Hawthorn has done for me and my family, I could never repay it.
Yeah.
And I think that could go for most Hawthorn supporters.
Yeah.
But, God, they've had a good run.
They have indeed. Well said. So that's the call to arms to all the Hawthorn supporters out there. Peter, our time here is almost gone tonight. It's been so great to have you on board. Before you go, I just want to revisit once again the day you kicked 18 goals.
Yeah, I'm glad you're doing this.
Now, I've done a bit of a deep dive. Now, this was in Tasmania, in the local competition. You kicked 18 goals, but on that day, you did not get the 3 votes.
What?
Is that, do you recall this?
I do.
You didn't.
What?
And I know exactly who gave the votes.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Well, who got the votes?
A fellow that every time I see the wizard, Watson, I think of this fella, Danny Ling.
Danny Ling.
Danny Ling.
Yeah, and I think he's got his number of possessions, I think, increases annually. I think he's up to about 85 possessions.
Well, he got the 3 votes. If he was here tonight, what would you say to him?
Well, I'd say he owes me a vote.
Well, why don't you ask him? He is here tonight. It's Danny Ling.
Danny Ling!
Where is he?
On your monitor there, Peter. You can see him.
I can see.
There he is, right there.
He was known as the cockroach. Right, Danny?
That's correct.
How'd you go, Danny? Did you think you got the chockies that day, mate?
Absolutely.
How many posies did you have, Danny?
Oh, the rumour was 55, but I think they might have missed a couple.
How many did you give Huddo that day, Danny?
Oh, I'm not really sure, but, you know, we weren't counting them, but we knew halfway through the last quarter he was heading towards some sort of record, and we were trying to feed him a fair bit more than we normally would.
Yeah.
But, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 or 10 or something like that.
Well, more importantly, there's Danny, but more importantly, who didn't give you the votes? Was it an umpire or who was it, Pete?
No, it was Adrian Bowden.
And who was he?
Well, Adrian played with Melbourne.
Right.
And he was on the Channel 6 World of Sport.
Gotcha. Well, what would you say to that idiot if you could see him today? He didn't give you the 3 votes.
I'd like to ask him one question.
Yes.
If I'd been able to kick 27, would I have been a chance for 3 votes?
Well, you can ask him because he's sitting next to Danny.
Fitzy, could you do me a favour and ask him why he didn't give me 3 votes?
Why didn't he get the 3 votes, Dan?
Well, to start with, there's a difference between sort of goal-kicking awards and best and fairest. So he got the bag for 18 goals, fair enough, so he's best for that. But in terms of best on the ground, you know, which is the most effective and the most perfect, Danny here, he had about 45 kicks or something. I don't know, you had only 18.
But looking after the midfielders again.
So there you go. But he's clearly given me absolutely nothing for accuracy.
The forwards get nothing.
No.
Hey, Danny, ever been choppered into a game? I ask you that.
Hey, Danny and Adrian, magnificent to have you on board, fellas. We've only scratched the surface, but hopefully everybody at home has enjoyed spending time with you as much as we have tonight. It's been a pleasure for us.
Thank you, mate.
Well done. And that's been our very special guest. Don't go anywhere. On the other side of this, the multi up next.